some secret European mission. Hello, good morning, Malcolm Nance.
Good morning, man. What a good morning. I can't take any more of this schadenfreude deliciousness. I mean, what's going to happen next? Are we going to have four Republicans defect to the Democrats and throw the House? That's all we need once George Santos goes down.
Yeah. Oh my God. I know, Malcolm. Besides being terrified at the prospect that Trump could ever get back into the Oval Office, I have to say, I guess it's good that the Republican Party largely tying themselves to him. Even after this, they're all. Tommy Tuberville said, "This makes me want to vote for him twice." Marco Rubio, they all lined up, right? Lindsey Graham in support of Trump, which I guess they're going to do for the next three indictments too, right? For whether it's insurrection, sedition, espionage, you name it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you should be under no illusion that he is not going to be the nominee for president of the United States. There is no one that's going to challenge him. The only thing that I think could happen is maybe you have a couple of Republicans in the margins who are never Trumpers who can peel away some votes. But the Republicans are pushing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to do that against Biden. Yikes. But right now, what we're seeing is we are seeing the raw and utter corruption of the Republican Party come to the surface. It's not just George Santos, who is, I got to admit, everything you read to me, a moment ago, you think, of course he did that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's not going to be able to keep in wigs and Spanx for nothing. So a man's got expenditures.
A man's got to buy Spanx. Exactly.
Speaking of lots of highlighters.
Speaking of which, I loved your tweet. You said, right-wing fantasy of manhood is tactical gear, King Leonidas' beard, and an insanely expensive, highly modified AR-15 makes them Trump-appointed special operations soldiers ready to kill America's enemies. Those enemies are always other Americans. I mean, we were saying out here in Hollywood, Malcolm, this storyline is too obvious, that the guy, this last mass murderer, is a white supremacist with a swastika and an SS tattoo with right-wing death squad patch on his clothing, like Enrico Tarrio and some of the other January 6th terrorists, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I keep encouraging all of you to go to Substack, to the malcolmnance.substack.com and subscribe, because that's where I'm going to be doing a lot more of my talking. Twitter's having problems. Elon Musk is getting buggy, but I'm about to release this story in high detail. Mm-hmm. Why do these right-wing extremist gunmen all dress like U.S. Special Operations soldiers, only they're fat and out of shape? They wear the tactical equipment that you see in the movies. They have the body armor and an AR-15 that might be worth $800 with $4,000 worth of accessories to it. It's like, it's now, what we used to make a joke about, what we call the tactical tuxedo, right? This is what they're wearing now. It is almost a sign that you can identify a person by how they're going to come out of their house.
Yeah.
And we see these people parading in the streets. They were dressed like this on January 6th. They all think that they are some sort of, Meal Team 6, right?
Yeah.
That these
I'm glad you got to that joke.
Yeah, I know, but they're these appointees by Trump. And ever since the war on terrorism has started, the look of the special operations soldier with the beard and the gun and the body armor, that's their game. They're live action role playing that they're people of importance. And they now feel that they have been empowered, deputized to kill by Donald Trump.
Yeah. Well, and also, I'm glad you pointed out on Twitter, you said Antifa is not a domestic terror organization, nor does it have links to international terror organizations. They're both sides do it, just always falls flat, doesn't it?
That's an official ruling, all right? I wrote one of the first U.S. government law enforcement intelligence handbooks called the Terrorist Recognition Handbook, right? It explains how protests, all right, unless it becomes violent, unless it has a political goal like overthrowing the government, okay? Yeah. General protests are not terrorism. But just being in using two words together, anti-fascist, does not create an organization. Even if there's an organization called the anti-fascists,
Yeah.
right? Like some of the older communist parties used to do, you actually have to participate in a terrorist organization that carries out terrorist acts, which are of political nature, in which the audience is beyond the immediate victims. That comes from the pantheon of terrorism.
Yep.
Merely being against fascists is not terrorism.
Which
these right wing throw it out all the time.
Yeah. By the way, I loved your Substack piece of how white men really fight, Tucker Carlson's mob murder fantasy.
Oh my God.
Just the line, "This isn't how white men fight." Well, first of all, if you accept every lynching ever in the history of ever, but you said, really, let us do a thought experiment. I want you to momentarily set aside your disbelief that Tucker McNair Carlson, scion of the Swanson TV dinner dynasty, has ever been in a fight more severe than throwing multicolored water balloons at his friends in Kennebunkport. It's possible he once closed his eyes and gesticulated both arms in front of himself, floppily flailing the tips of his finger in a hilariously feeble attempt to simulate a wave of slaps at someone named Chip or Chad or Binky brought on by a disastrous gin and tonic spill. You said, as amusing as it sounds, this is how Tucker Carlson most likely thought white men fight. No wonder he expressed shock and dismay at the rough and tumble trucker like MAGA went 3-on-1 to beat up on the man he was, so happy wanted to see killed, as he said. You just said where the lawyers at Fox News likely saw the writing on the wall was the next statement. Suddenly I found myself rooting for the mob against the man, hoping they'd hit him harder, kill him. I really wanted him to hurt the kid. I could taste it. Yeah, I mean, it's to try to break down the whole thing, but that line, "This isn't how white men fight," it was really extraordinary, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And it is, of course, look, I'm not talking about individuals, right? We are talking about mob action that leads to murder or lynching, right? Yeah. Lynching, an American form. I think we talked about this before. The first organized one was a law, the Scalp Act of 1749, in which you were to go and decapitate or scalp a Native American, right, and bring their scalp back for $100 of equivalent today's currency in order to ethnically cleanse area. They did this in mobs. It created the first mercenary private military force in America for that, back in the founding days of America. This is how they fight. The Ku Klux Klan, this is how they fight. They fight together. They lynch people. Yeah. Ahmaud Arbery was lynched by 3 men in a truck.
Thank you.
Run down and murdered. So I don't want to hear this is how they fight. By the way, that mob action bumps up against terrorism.
Yeah, yeah. Malcolm, by the way, just in a side note, what is this the Russian espionage thing that we've shut down? What is do you know anything about that story? I just saw that breaking last night.
No, that's breaking news. We're going to get to that next week. I'll have a Substack.
Okay.
There is it
seems like a big deal.
NATO-wide is cracking down on Russian spy networks.
Yeah.
They broke one up in Germany, Sweden, and in other countries. The Russians are flooding the zone with new spies. Now we're rolling them up, and we're going to sort of sanitize ourselves of them.
Yep. However, this is your time to get shouty about the election, because obviously everybody's freaking out about the Washington Post ABC poll showing Trump beating Biden by 7 points. Kurt Bardella wrote a great piece about why we shouldn't freak out about this, not just the length of time before the election, but I have to say, CNN is giving Trump a town hall tonight. This is part of how we got here in the first place, along with Russia's help, right? Is normalizing what is now a convicted sexual assaulter, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I knew you pulled this out just so you could hear me shout.
Yes.
Okay. First, let's can we all agree to something? Don't watch any polls. Did we not learn anything in the last election? Okay. 538, consistently wrong all the time. These polls are heavily weighted towards Trump voters. Mm-hmm. We're seeing this dabbling of everyone once again having to give extra weight, extra credibility, all right, to Trump voters because they think that because they have big mouths that they're actually larger bodies of people than they actually are in the respective polling samples. Trump cannot beat Joe Biden by 7 points when you have almost 50% of Republicans. I think the number is 41% of Republicans that support, not support, that want to uphold gun purchases at any cost. Well, 81% of them want to ban assault rifles. So you're going to tell me they're going to vote for Trump and ban assault rifles in the same breath? Something is happening in the Republican Party, but when Trump congeals his base and they go like a mob and they chant and they threaten people, the Trump cult all comes together.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't think they're more than 40% of America.
Yeah.
There's no way they can get there. But you know what? We can't depend on that. Every one of you, look, I'm lecturing to you about them murdering American citizens. There was just another shooting, if I'm not mistaken, about somebody who went to someone else's door and was shot to death.
Yeah.
We have an epidemic of trouble here, and I'm sorry, it is all concentrated within the Republican Party.
Thank you.
Which is why I wrote that book. They want to kill Americans.
I was just going to say, they want to kill Americans is, as usual, Malcolm, so prescient from the top supermarket in Buffalo to El Paso to Allen, Texas. This is what you've been warning about, is we are in the middle of just a series of massacres by right-wing, white supremacist terrorists.
Hey, you want to hear something funny? Elon Musk, for some bizarre, strange reason, listens to some mid-20s kid living in a basement in Malaysia about what conservative white American men are, do here in the country. And he's saying there couldn't possibly be a Hispanic white supremacist. Well, many of them identify as white.
Right.
Enrique Tarrio was just convicted of sedition against the United States as the leader of the Proud Boys.
Yep.
These things happen. And guess what? They also get guns and mass murder people in malls. All right? You got to keep our eye on the ball on this thing. These people, our opponents are organized. But it is not going to go the way we want. The wishful thinking of Trump going away is not happening. And these mass murders will continue.
Yeah, well, I got to say, justice is on a roll, though. So there's some silver linings this morning. Malcolm, the man is Malcolm Nance. The book is They Want to Kill Americans. The podcast is Black Man Spy. The Substack. I mean, you need it all.
That's
you have
right.
to get it all. Love you, Malcolm. See you next week.